Hey guys, how you doing? Ray here again. If you'd like to subscribe to my channel, it's Nitro Show. Today we're going to be talking about, like I said in my other videos, and I'm telling everybody in each video so they know that there's other parts. I'm doing a 4-part video section on these guys, alright? And it'll apply, like I said, to buggies, truggies, monster trucks. It's going to be about the nitro engine itself. Now, I've already put one out about troubleshooting. I've put one out about maintenance and keeping these guys running. Today's video is going to be about breaking these in properly, and then we're going to be doing one more about tuning these guys. And you know, if you got any questions, you guys out there, please feel free to contact me. One thing I do ask is if you have any issues or problems, guys, try to be pretty clear and give a description of what you own, what you have, and the problem. Recently I got a question from one subscriber that said, I have a helicopter and it's spinning in circles, what do I do to fix it? Well, you know, without really having the knowledge of what kind of helicopter it is, basically the only thing I told him back was, you know, check your trims on your rudder to make sure it wasn't all the way left or all the way right. But does he have a gyro on it? Is the gyro not, you know, running normal? Is it reversed? Is it, you know, is it bad? So please, if you want me to help you guys out there, try to give the best description of what your problem is. Because I can't, you know, read your mind. I have to know what you have and to be able to analyze and help you the best that I can. So let's get started. Break-in. Okay, so you got one of these guys home and you got a big dent in your wallet probably, and now you want to get this thing up and running. Well, a nitro car, guys, is not like an electric car where you can charge the batteries and you're off and running. There is procedures you have to take with these guys to break them in properly, and that will ensure, if they're broken in properly, the engine, that you will get a long life out of them. If you do not break the engine in properly, you're probably going to have problems with it from then on, and it will be a headache. So I'm going to pull the body off this in a minute, guys. We're going to talk about the 3 different screws that you have on the engine. We're going to be talking about the high-speed needle, the low-speed needle. I'm going to show you those. The camera will come off the pod. And we're going to be talking about the idle screw. And right now, before I take the body off and we get into any of that, we're going to talk about just getting prepared. All right? One thing is, make sure you got the proper fuel that your engine calls for. I use a 20%. I like Traxxas fuel. I use low-C fuel too. There's many different companies out there. And they do make different performance with the vehicles. You know, make sure you got the proper fuel to get started. Your books usually will give you the general information. Most of these guys run on 20% nitro fuel, so that's a good starting point. I like the Traxxas brand of fuel because it has a lot of oil in it, and it keeps it lubed up good. The next thing is your glow igniter. You need to use a glow igniter on these to light a little fire burning in your motor. Make sure that your glow igniter is fully charged. Make sure that you have good batteries in your, if you're using a LiPo or whatever in your car, in the receiver, make sure it's charged. If you've got your regular transmitter, make sure you've got good fresh batteries in that. And make sure that the transmitter is bound with the receiver in this, so your throttle is functioning and your tires are going the right way and everything. Make sure you oil your filter in there. Let's pull the body off right now, guys. You have a filter on these guys, which is a vital part, okay, of the engine. spin this around so you can see it here. You have a dust filter, and then you have the main filter underneath that. The dust filter doesn't get oiled. The main filter underneath it gets oiled. You'll put that in a bag with some oil, air filter oil. Rub it around in like a Ziploc bag so you don't get your hands all oily. Make sure it doesn't have excessive oil. Once it's fully covered in oil, but not where you're wringing it out, place it back on there. The next thing is if you're using a pull start, this doesn't apply to you. If you're using a drill start, which would be a backing plate on the motor, and you'd put a drill back there to spin it, to start it, make sure that's charged up. If you're using a starter box, make sure your starter box batteries are charged up properly, and also make sure that the car is aligned properly on the starter box with the flywheel engaging in your starter box rubber wheel. Now basically when you get these guys, most good quality companies, the engines will come pretty much set almost to start breaking them in. This engine here basically came pretty decently set up for braking. Now braking is different than tuning and obviously running it after. Basically you want everything set so the engine is running very rich, which means a lot of oil. There's the nitros run like a 2-cycle with the oil is in the fuel. Okay, you want it running very, very rich, where it's almost spitting raw fuel out of the exhaust pipe. And you want that good and lubed up, because that's a vital part of breaking these in properly. Now what I usually will do before I break these in, like I said, most of the needles will come, with the exception of maybe the high speed or the low speed, where you got to crank them out just a little bit. Now if you turn these needles, they're a screw, the screw head. Okay, if you turn the screw the way a clock goes, okay, clockwise, that's going to lean out the motor. So you don't want to be doing that. You want to go counterclockwise, which is the opposite way that clock would turn, and that is going to richen. So one good thing to do, guys, is get yourself a bottle of this stuff here. It's not that expensive. It's called After Run Oil. Okay, it's a red oil here. And we'll talk about what we're going to do with that. What I'll usually do is pull the glow plug out, and I'll drop maybe 7 drops down on top of the piston, move the car all the way around, get it lubed up, because the engines don't really come with any oil in them. So you really want it to lube it up a little bit. And then what I do is I'll get my glow wrench, and I will put it in just so it is like to the point where it stops, and then just back it off a tiny bit so it's a little bit loose. That will help, that will kill some of the compression and help you to make the car easier to start. Now, once it starts, you obviously want to tighten that up all the way, so have your wrench ready, because it'll vibrate loose and then it'll stop. And don't crank these glow plugs in there, guys, okay? It's not like a spark plug on a car. Just, you know, snug. So if you've done all that, you've got all your batteries charged, your glow igniter charged, your starter box or drill start batteries, everything is charged, your air filter is oiled, you got fresh fuel in your tank, you've dumped some 7 drops of this down inside the piston, and you've just put the plug back in so it's just a little bit loose. Now you're ready to get started. What I do, let me spin this back around. What I do to prime these engine, guys, instead of, you have to prime them to get fuel started. Once the fuel is started, it will continue to flow through. I got a little cap on here for the winter over the exhaust so no condensation goes up inside of there. You have to prime these. There's a couple of ways to prime them. using either a pull start, drill start, starter box, it's all going to work the same way. You're going to hold your finger over the exhaust pipe to create back pressure. At that point, you're not going to be trying to start it. You're going to be what's called priming it. You're going to hold your finger over there and you're going to pull. The pull start or drill start is going to be faster. The fuel is going to go through faster. The starter box, the fuel is going to go through faster. And you'll see the fuel travel through the line. I like to use clear line. I use low-C lines because it's easier to see the fuel, whether it's blue fuel or red or orange or even clear. You can see it pretty good. What I do is try to get the fuel just to get to the tip of where it's going into the carburetor, just a little bit inside of there, and then it should be ready to start. If you don't want to, I don't do it that way. How I prime mine is I pull off the line that is connected, the rubber fuel line that is connected to the exhaust pipe. That's your back pressure line, and I'll blow through that gently and watch the fuel travel through. And once it gets to the tip right into the carb, then I stop and I just put it back on there. I like doing that because it doesn't beat the heck out of the engine to try to prime it. It's the easiest way to prime. So you've done that. Now you're ready to fire this guy up. Now, like I said, most of these will come pretty good set, ready for break-in procedures. With the exception, usually, the idle screw. And I'm going to show you all these in a minute, guys, what I'm talking about, and point these out and explain them to you again. It's going to be usually set from the factory with a high idle. That's made so it will stay running when it initially starts. Now, sometimes when it starts, guys, it'll start, stop. Sometimes, if you get lucky, it'll start and run for the first time and stay running. Put it up on some kind of a blocks, like this is up on a low-C work stand. You put it up on something, guys, so it doesn't take off running. Okay. The other thing I like to do before I start it is pull off your air filter here and look at your carburetor and make sure that the carburetor is open just about 1 millimeter. If the carburetor is fully closed, okay, because it wasn't set up, if it's ready to run and it wasn't set up properly from the factory, if it's closed, it's not going to start, ever. So make sure that that carburetor, you can adjust with your throttle on your transmitter. Make sure that that is open just about a crack, 1 millimeter. Okay, so you've got it primed, you've got everything set, and now it's time to start it. So you start this thing up. If it starts and it's running, make sure that your high-speed needle is almost at the end of its turning capabilities, going clockwise, and that'll ensure you'll see some a little bit of raw fuel spitting out. Put a piece of cardboard underneath it to collect it, and then you'll know the engine is running very rich. What I like to do, and make sure that you get yourself also a temperature gauge. You need a temperature gauge to do this right, guys. That's a gauge that goes down and checks your temperature of your head and your engine and how hot it is. Get yourself one of those. And it's not a wise idea to do it on a 90-degree day. You know, do it on a cool day because you don't want this thing overheating any more than it will. And basically, you get these things started up. Make sure you got a little bit of raw fuel spitting out of there so you'll know it's running very, very rich. We're going to go through the needles. I'm going to show you where they are and how they work. And now there's some controversy with break-in. I like to break my cars in up on blocks. I break them in. I'll run 4 tanks of fuel, and on the 5th tank of fuel, I'm going to run it in the yard, and then I'm going to start to tune it after that. But tuning is going to be a whole nother section we're going to cover. So basically, between usually the 4th to 5th tank, 5th to 6th is when you're going to start doing that. Now the way I do it, I break mine in, I run it up on blocks. Some guys run them in the grass. I don't like to do that because running them, that's going to make it overheat even more. I like to keep it up on blocks, and you can even have a fan blowing on it to keep it cool. Make sure you're outside, obviously. I've done all mine that way, and they've all had beautiful engine life, and they've always tuned beautifully. That's how I do mine. If you want to run them in the grass, be my guest. But I'll idle this. And another thing is, if you have a temp gauge, some guys will shut these off in between tanks. Now, I don't. And you might say, why? Well, if the engine's not overheating, guys, I leave it running. I'll just open the tank and fill it back up. And why shut it off? You shut it off if it's overheating. If it isn't overheating, let it keep going. Keep filling it with fuel, and it'll keep it running smooth. Because when these things shut off in between tanks and you let them cool down, guys, and you go to start them back up again, they're going to be a pain in the butt to start. And a lot of times guys will think that they've seized the motor up because the piston gets stuck at the bottom. And you got to get in where your flywheel is, down here, the flywheel underneath. You've got to get in there with a screwdriver, and you got to pry it, and you got to pry it the right way, you know, to free the piston. And then usually you'd have to put more run after oil down there. So if it's running and you got your temperature gauge and it's running cool and it's staying within the temperature that your engine recommends, each one is different. This one I think is around 210, 220 for a 0.21. I let it keep running, okay, and then by the time I get done with the fourth tank, that's when, before you tune these guys, pull out the glow plug, throw it out, and pop a new one, and make sure you have a spare one, because you're running this thing extremely rich, so basically that means the glow plug is usually going to be really fouled out by the time you're done. So by the fifth tank, replace your glow plug. Now you should be good enough to tighten it normally. Fill your fuel tank, leave the body off it, and you can run it around in the grass, low grass, stay out of the dirt. Stay off of pavement too, because most guys are learning how to use these for the first time. You don't want to be hitting curbs and flipping them over and damaging the internals without the body. I leave the body off to let it to stay nice, let a nice airflow go through it and cool. It'll stay in like a grassy area. And then the next section, like I said, we're going to be talking about how to tune these. But for right now, let me move this stuff off of the table, get it out of our way, and we're going to show you the needles we're talking about here. So let me pull this off of the pod, and I'm going to show you which ones are which. Alright. Okay. So, this one here, guys, alright, that I'm pointing to, right here, that's the one I'm talking about. That is the high speed. That is going to control your power band from mid-speed, mid-throttle to full throttle. And this screw is, if you can see it, it is in, because this one is already tuned. It's down a little bit inside. You want that out so it's almost level with this here. Okay. Now, your idle screw is down. It's going to be on the carburetor. I don't know if you can see, but you can see down right here where I'm pointing to, that screw. That is your idle screw. And let's spin this around. And now your low speed needle, guys, is going to be this one right here behind this little temp gauge wire. That screw right here on the end of the carburetor where your linkage is. You can see that screw. That is your low speed screw, guys. What that is going to do is that's going to control the fuel going into the engine, and that's going to control it from a dead stop to mid speed. And then this one takes over, your high speed needle takes over from mid speed to full throttle. These are usually set high as far as the idle screw from the factory, so it starts. Once it starts, It'll probably be racing. It'll probably make you a little nervous. The tires might be spinning. Get a screwdriver ready that'll fit on there and turn that down a little bit until you get a nice idle out of the machine. Don't turn it down too much, guys, because if you do, it'll die. So that is really break-in procedure for these guys and how everything works. Run them rich, and usually what I've noticed with the low speed is always run pretty good if you leave it just about level. Okay, and where it sits. If you leave it just about level in there, it's usually set pretty good. But those are the procedures to properly break these in, and I wish you good luck. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. The next section we will be talking about is tuning these guys, so check that video out, and I thank you for watching. Ray out.